We are live, episode 2 of the Square Root of Creation podcast. Welcome, everybody. Welcome with us. We are Shio and Timijan, and we are the hosts of this show, which is basically centered around simple tools that you can use to change your life that we started using some time ago ourselves, and we are now sharing with you. So, Shio, kick us off.
So, our topic this week is the access bars. We gave a little teaser about it last week, and this is one of my favorite body processes. So, we're going to talk about what the bars are, how they've helped us, a few other testimonials from people, and how they could potentially help you. But let's first start off with what are the bars? Timian, would you like to tell us?
Yeah, sure. So, if you've tuned into the previous podcast that we did last week, last Sunday, we talked that we're using tools that come from Access Consciousness, which is a kind of like a personal development modality created by Gary Douglas and Dane Keir. And it's basically kind of like divided into two main things. One is the verbal processing and like the verbal stuff, so everything that you can read, which you can talk about, and like questions you can use and stuff like that. And the other part is the body processes. So basically, what that means is that it includes touch. So, for example, there are several body processes. I think there's like around 100 in total, and the bars are the first one that many people actually learn. So a body process basically means that one of the practitioners touches you somewhere on the body. It could be like on the general body, or it could be on the head. It could be on a specific region if it's like meant for something specific. But in general, bars are just like bars are focused on the head. So yeah, bars are focused on the head, and it's basically hmm, how shall we go about this a little bit more?
I guess for me, bars is sort of physical tool. So there's 32 points on the head that a practitioner will run sort of in sequence. So they'll put their fingers on those certain points, and then they'll hold it there for however long it needs to happen. And to me, the bars is a physical tool that's really, really helpful for dissipating stress. And I found personally really, really helpful for dissipating headaches. And so that's just the beginning of what the bars can do. But I love it because I can't think of other tools that very directly deal with how to dissipate stress besides like stretching or taking a long bath or something like that. Bars is like if someone put their hands on your head and then just drained all the stress out of you. Or like in Avatar The Last Airbender, there's a scene where there's a lake that's blocked and the water is stagnant and it's discolored because it can't flow. And bars is like if someone were to unblock a channel and then allow all of the water to flow out.
Mm. Mm. I like that. I like that, and it's kind of like so. So in the previous episode, we basically did a little kind of like introduction to access consciousness, and now we're really starting to delve a little deeper. So basically, in a sense, let's take a step back and say like what we experienced with the bar. So it's kind of like before getting into like what it is in and of itself. Like you said, it can clear the blockages. It can kind of like help with headaches. You have a very very good story regarding headaches. Would you like to share that one now?
Yes,
Awesome.
absolutely. So I about a year ago, I lived in DC and I suddenly started having a very intense headache. And I usually, honestly, I just don't get headaches. It's very rare for me. But this was super intense. So it felt like there was something in my brain. And I could literally feel that it was like hard for me to think or hard for me to rev up my brain to think about something. And I was just exhausted. Like it felt like an engine and there was something caught in it so the engine can run at full. And so this headache one day and then 2 days and then 3 days. And I was like, okay, this is really intense. And at that time, I did know about the bars. So I was like, okay, I really need to get my bars run. And it still took me a couple days before that happened. So it had been 1, 2, 3 days. And there was a flash in my mind, despite knowing these tools, that I was like, oh, if I don't like deal with this headache in some way, shape, or form, then it could be like a permanent sort of thing, permanent like disability almost. Because I would go to sleep and like it wouldn't really change. I would take a hot shower, which usually relaxes me, and it wouldn't really change. I think I went through like a weekend where I didn't even have work, and it was still really, really physically intense. And it just hurt. So at that point, I knew I was like, okay, you need to get your bars run. But interestingly enough, I actually went and got a massage before I went and got my bars run. And the massage helped a little bit. It helped to undo some of the tension, but it didn't actually help dissipate the entire thing. So I got a massage before I even got the bars. And this person, like, it was very specifically someone massaging like my neck and like around my head. So ideally, they would be able to release some of the pressure. And it didn't do that much for me. It was still like this dull ache inside my head. It was like a constant ache. So then I was like, okay, let's go and let's get my bars run. So there was someone who lived pretty close to me. I went to her and I got my bars run. And I remember that like the instant she put her hands on me in like certain places. So we start with a place back here. The instant she put her hands on me, I could start to like feel a sense of relief. It was like, ah, oh my gosh, this thing is finally starting to unwind. And so after the session, I would say that 70% of my pain was dissipated. And then I went to bed. And when I woke up, the headache was gone. And this has been something that was like hounding me for 5 days. And I don't think other modalities would have dealt with as effectively because I even got a massage and it was still there. And within one session of the bars and like the subsequent sleep afterwards, the whole headache had dissipated and I was back to normal. So that's why I love bars so much because if you're someone who has headaches or even when you're just like stressed and your head is starting to get gummed up, this is probably my favorite tool to directly deal with that.
I love it. I love what you said. Like, because so many times we would just say, "Oh, I have a headache. Now I can't help it. It's just going to hurt until it stops hurting." And maybe you drink some more water. You like, how many options do you have for clearing a headache that isn't just like, as you said, taking a bath, drinking more water, or taking some pills for the pain? And it's kind of like it helps you dissipate. So, so in a sense, if you like all of you who are watching, if you've heard of different modalities, some are called like Reiki or bioenergy and like other modalities that use energy in a sense, and we'll get to more of what that is later, maybe later in the episodes. But like, um, it's mostly about putting something into the body, like kind of trying to energize the body, putting energy into the body. And when it comes to the access bars, it's actually on the contrary. So the charge that is already in our brain and the kind of like tension gets released. So it's not putting stuff in, it's actually taking stuff out, or maybe a better description would be like, because I think the word charge really does a great job of describing that. Because like if you for example think to a subject in school or like some person who you really were kind of like angry with, it's
Riles
all
you
this,
up.
yeah, it's this charge. It's like it makes you angry, it makes you want to move or destroy things. It's kind of like this very potent thing. And if you imagine that everything that is kind of like stopping you as well has that energy in it, so there's all of this attention, all of this anger or whatever it is stuck
It
to
was like this,
things.
like you think of the person, you're just,
Yeah,
or you think of something and
yeah,
you're really scared or like almost terror.
yeah, and it's basically with the bars and like with other tools of access consciousness, it's actually that gets dissipated. Because when that gets dissipated, Gary Douglas, the founder, uses one example of explaining this, which is kind of like when you take a computer and you format the hard drive. So you basically take everything like that was on the hard drive, all of the programs, all of your files that were kind of like scattered everywhere, and you just wipe it clean. So in a sense, when you get a bar session, it's as if you formatted the hard drive that is your brain. And when that happens, you basically create the space for new programs, for new pictures. Like you can delete old crappy pictures that you took with your phone in 2009, and you can put your brand new pictures from this year's phone, which has like an HD camera, into the drive instead of like having that. And also the programs that are like, I can't do this, life's so hard, or like school is hard, or there isn't enough money in the world, or whatever that is. Like, if you dissipate that, you dissipate the strength with which that holds you in your mind, and you basically allow for a new space, um, to kind of just switch away from that, I would say.
Yeah, I think the way I would describe it is I think people are familiar with the idea of like writer's block or mental block. And for so many of us, things like that can feel like impenetrable or just like impossible to deal with. Like if you have this like writer's block where it's like, no idea is coming. Oh my God, no idea is coming. Oh my God, I can't do this. Or you have a mental block of like, oh, like I have trouble writing. And it's just this like this thing that you can't deal with that's supposedly solid and impenetrable and impossible to handle. One, like, what if that thing isn't as solid as you think it is? And two, my experience with really strong emotions like that has been that I've been able to use bars to help dissipate those. So a really good example for me is the U.S. presidential election. No matter which side you were on, was probably really intense for most people. And what I actually did is I would trade bars with my parents. It's a thing that I've started. I would do that over the course of the election. I think 3 nights in a row, my dad and I watched TV, and 3 nights in a row we did that. And so that was a really, really good tool for me to deal with like the overwhelm and the terror of like, what if it goes this way? What if it goes that way? Like, what if something bad happens? And that's
Yeah.
what I love about the bars.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, um, what if it goes this way? What if it goes the way you kind of wanted it to go, but then it ends up being worse than what you thought it was going to be, right? So there's
Mhm.
all this kind of like what we project at the world to be like. And yeah, I can share maybe the first experience I ever had with the bars as well,
Yeah, you told
because
me about this, and it was
yeah,
really intense.
yeah. So basically, the way that started for me was that I was someone told me about the bars when I didn't really have any idea of what they were. And the person told me like, it's this really amazing thing. You lie down on a massage table, I touch your head for about an hour or hour and 15 minutes, and you feel really refreshed afterwards. You feel like a new person, and it's kind of ranges from, in the worst case scenario, it feels like you just had a great massage on your head, and in the best case scenario, it's like your whole world changes. And they were saying like, I just learned this and I would like to practice. So if you're interested, I would do a session for you. And I was like, yeah, sure, it sounds amazing. And then we were kind of going back and forward, like when to meet up and blah blah blah. And like 2 years went by, and I couldn't meet up with the person. Like they never had time, they never made the time, and I was like, Jesus, we every time we kind of talk, they say this is so amazing, but I haven't yet gotten to experience it. Like I was getting a little bit frustrated. And then there was this event. Kind of like a bar's taster or like a bar's introduction. and I went to it. Like I saw an ad, I went to it the next day. It blew my mind. Like the first part, the what the person was talking about blew my mind. And then we also got to experience a little taster, like a 15-minute taster of the bars. And I was walking home from that, and it was feeling like, you know, looking at the world through different eyes. It felt a little bit like I was maybe a little. It's a different space. It's kind of like being a little maybe under the influence of alcohol in a sense. So not really kind of firmly present, but present in this relaxed state where everything is so much more fluid. So I took the first next bars class that I actually could, and it was basically I was lying on the table and I was just being there. I didn't worry about what's going to come like 2 hours after that. I wasn't worrying about the next day. I didn't have the chatter in my brain that I was used to having. And it's basically that happened for the first time since I could remember. So I've never remembered if I had like this level of relaxation before. So after my first experience in my bars class, um, so after you do a bars class, you become a practitioner of bars, and you can then meet with other people and you can practice on each other, kind of like what you mentioned with his family. And I met this amazing person with which I would do two or more bars straight a day, not a day, but like a week.
That's
So in,
intense, 2 day.
yeah, yeah, I had like 2 sessions in a day. I think about 2 or 3 times. It's really, if you do it both ways, like that each person is receiving and each person is gifting, it's really intense. So um, I basically got my bars run around 100 times in the first year of getting to know this, and it would just be like my go-to thing. So whenever I was depressed, I would call my friend and say, "Let's meet for bars." If I was angry, I would call my friend to meet for bars. If I was feeling pathetic, like, "Oh my God, I can't deal with the world right now. It's everything like pathetic or overwhelmed." If I was just like, I cannot, like, what to do right now, I would just call and arrange a bar swap. And you mentioned in the previous episode as well, like how you saw people around you turn to alcohol, turn to addiction, turn to kind of like other things to numb the pain in a sense.
Yeah.
And I found that this was a brilliant way for me to, I wouldn't necessarily use the word numb the pain, right? But like just have an easier time going through whatever life throws at you.
Yeah. I That makes so much sense to me. And definitely like what you said about it's not numbing the pain. It's not like pushing the thing down and then not dealing with it. It's a way to like have like physical ease in like dealing with the charge of the thought or the seemingly like impenetrable emotion or just like overwhelming emotion that something or some topic could bring up. And that's crazy. A hundred bar sessions in a year. I really like that. That'd be fun.
Yeah, it actually was because like I've read, and it's so inspiring to read what like other people's experiences. There's this Facebook page called Bars 365, and it's basically anyone can join, and it's kind of like there are people who are facilitators, and there are people who have no idea what bars are, and they share kind of like someone shares inspiration or their experience, or people ask questions, and someone asked the question like, "What's changed for you after having your bars run?" And I read the story of this person who said, "I was super depressed all my life, and I didn't even know. I didn't even find that it was so natural to me. It didn't even occur to me that you could live in a different way." So the person was really depressed, and they knew the tools of access consciousness, but by that point they also knew the bars, and they were having kind of regular exchanges, like bar swaps with other people, and it was kind of better, but still there was some of that lingering as well, like for a period of time. And then the person said, and that they arranged meeting with someone for 3 consecutive days to have like 3 swaps, 3 consecutive days. And the person wrote like after the first day it was great, after the second day it was great as well, but it wasn't until the third day that I just realized that I can let go of my depression, and they let go of it, and they weren't depressed after that. So it was like 3 days of, just,
Just going through all the
yeah, washing off your everything from your brain, and just like after day 3 the person was like completely renewed. So it's super inspiring for me to basically find stories like that. So do you think we made it kind of like clear? How do you think we did in describing what the bars are and like what they can do for people and stuff?
I think we've done a decent job, and I have a question for you, which is, what does it feel like for you when you're getting it and after you're getting it? Because I think that could
Right,
be very interesting too.
right, yeah. So, so basically, I've heard from you. You asked like, what does it feel for me? But I'm gonna preface it with this. I've heard from people that it can feel really differently, and I've had this experience as well because my first experience was really intense, and some people would just not feel anything for the like first couple of times even. So it feels for me, I lie down on the massage table, or like if it's a couch or a bed or like whatever, you can do them on the beach. Um, and when the person touches my head and they start kind of running the bars, well, it actually starts with kind of like just energizing the body a bit more. So I can perceive my body getting relaxed, and at the same time, it's kind of getting more alive. So it feels like it's a little bit, like vibrating a little bit, not heavy, but it gets kind of,
Zzz.
yeah, yeah, it gets like this. So it's kind of vibrating a little bit, and it's as if I were excited, like knowing that
Like
I'm going
buzzing
to,
with excitement.
yeah, like knowing you're going to a theme park or something.
Uh-huh.
And then when they start working on the bars, it would be, I had like so many different experiences. Some sessions started with me talking with the person who was running my bars, and after like 10 minutes, I could not formulate words anymore because it would just take this cognitive ability out of my world.
To just
So
like put a thought together, and you're like, I'm so relaxed.
yeah, yeah, it's kind of like, and it doesn't even matter at that point anymore. It's just like, oh wow, I'm enjoying this so much that it doesn't even matter like what I was going to ask or like say before. It just
Hmm.
kind of drifts away. So I would say for me it feels like there's heat around the areas that are being touched.
Hmm.
Um, with the bars, I haven't yet experienced cold. With some of the other stuff, I have experienced like cold as well.
Uh-huh.
But it's mainly this and just this feeling of relaxation throughout the body. So at a certain point, I may even fall asleep. So the person is then like just working as they would, but I actually like fall asleep during the session.
I fall asleep
So
a lot too
yeah,
when I receive bars.
yeah, yeah, and so basically, it would then just be. It's kind of an interesting experience because when I don't fall asleep, I oftentimes. Have you ever listened to one of those, um, not ASMR, but kind of like the binaural stuff?
Binaural beats.
Yeah.
I don't. I think I have it for like only 5 minutes at a time, something like that.
So like when you we have like, I think there are 4 different stages of brain waves regarding
Yeah.
frequency,
Yeah.
and like when you're really thinking very hard and trying to figure stuff out, or where you're worrying about stuff, you're
Uh-huh.
in the beta waves, so they're the quickest. and then it kind of goes down. It goes down. So there's alpha. I'm not really sure where to place omega, uh, delta waves in between there, but there's theta as well. So when you're in the theta wavelength, this is um,
Least
the
frequency, so it's like
yeah,
instead
yeah,
of
it's
beta, which is like
yeah. So if you did an EKG on the person, you would actually see like the slowest EEG, not EKG. Yeah, right. So you'd actually see that it's the brain is slowing down, so it's sometimes not really falling asleep, but just being deeply relaxed.
really relaxed.
So yeah, so you can hear stuff that's going on around you. You can feel the touches as the person moves, like from point to point, and you kind of have sentience, but not really thinking about anything, not really trying to entertain any thought at all. Um, but just being there, being present. I would say this, you know, when you're like after a great massage, you really feel your body. You don't really think
It's like
about
a
it.
hum almost.
Yeah, yeah, it's kind of like that. And you're just very present with everything there is, but not thinking about it.
I saw
Yeah.
that today with, so I used a massage wheel called the chirp wheel, which I've been telling all my friends about, and I like used it to like stretch my back out and like my legs, and there's this like hum where I was like, oh, the muscles feel really good right now, and that's what bars feels like to me, except it's on my head. Where when I first got bar sessions, I think even now when I get them, sometimes I will fall asleep within 15 minutes. And I'm not walking in
Hmm.
drowsy usually. I'm walking in like fully alert and like in a normal, I'd say, state of mind. And then usually within 15 to 20 minutes, especially like in the first few times I got it, I would like fall asleep like pretty fast. And I think the other thing that, for me at least, is sometimes I have a lot of difficulty relaxing when I go to bed at night. And so that feeling of, oh, I have to get up out of bed, but I don't actually feel like I got the deep sleep that I really needed. Like that's something that is very prevalent for me, much less so with continuous running of the bars, but before like really, really prevalent where I'd wake up and I'd be like, oh, I hate everybody and everything. And this sense of like waking up and not really getting a good night's sleep. And the first few sessions of the bars, I think I was just so tired because it was like this exhaustion that was in the back of my head that I would just fall asleep instantly. And then I
Hmm.
was woke up around the time the bars was ending, which I thought was very interesting. Like I would get knocked out and then I would wake up like pretty much near the end. And then as time went on, and especially as I started running other people's bars, what I found is it feels like my head is humming. It feels like my head's going like, and it feels really, really good. And what I also want to encourage our audience to maybe think about is part of the reasons I love the bars is because for many people, especially after getting it run a few times, there's a very perceivable difference in how you feel when you went in and how you feel when you exit. And I sort of use that as my trust of going back to get more and more sessions because I can very much perceive the difference where my head is like, oh, that feels really nice. It feels like my entire head is humming. And of course, for me, like I had gotten my bars run a few times before the headache thing, but the headache thing really like made me go like, wow, okay, this is incredible. And then I had this,
Hmm.
and then it like dissipated within a night of getting it run.
Yeah, yeah, that's amazing. And I would encourage like our audience, if you have at any point during our talk or conversation or anything we share, if you have any questions, please pop them in the chat, like wherever you're watching on YouTube, on Facebook, and like let us know, or if there's any comment, just share it with us. We'd be so happy to address anything that's coming up for you. Maybe give some specific example if that's what you're looking for. And yeah, so you know that you have that possibility. It's not just us talking. We're also open to be influenced by your input. So if you're watching this live, you can do that. And even if you're not watching this live but listening to the recording, you can still like write to us on Facebook or leave a comment under our video on YouTube so that we know like what are you interested in, what's kind of like going on for you right now, what's something that you're finding yourself mulling over in your life right now that you would possibly be interested in having more ease with generally. So we could actually like incorporate that in future videos as well. So shall we talk a little bit about the changes that come after having your bars run, Sheila?
Yeah, I think so. Because
Mm-hmm.
I think two different ways of looking at it is there's the immediate sort of benefits of like, wow, I feel much better. Maybe like the like pain that I had in my head is like very dissipated. And then the thing I really want to encourage any listeners or future audience listeners to try is to have bars incorporated as like part of a wellness routine. That term, and yeah, let's talk about that because it's not for me just a thing of I do this when my head hurts. It's a thing of I like to do this like once a week or like once a month as part of like having a happy and healthy body.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Um, so when I first started with this tool in a sense, I heard two things. When people come to access, they will either, and I'm like it's more fun, like set from a space of fun than from a space of like oh my god this is going to happen. But like so often it happens. You have your bars run, so many stuff clears out. Oh, and another thing that I would like to mention is like we are so often taught that we have to think through things that are bugging us, and we have to analyze our experiences, our childhood experiences, especially like in any form of therapy that is a talk therapy. We're encouraged to talk about these things and
Mhm.
like explore them. And so many times we're actually instructed to like you have to get it down like to the bare like bones of what is
It's like
striking
zigzagging
you.
through a maze. You must
Yeah,
figure it out, like how to get
yeah,
the maze to the core of the issue that like you were talking about.
yeah. And in the end, you kind of become an expert of the problem that you're having, but so many times you still don't have a solution. And the bars, in a sense, work on the quote unquote problems that you might be having that you're not even aware of or that you can't verbalize. So it would be possible that you have your bars run and like your neighbor who's mowing the lawn on a Sunday morning at 7 is not bugging you anymore, because before you would like really flip out, you'd be angry,
Right.
but you just enter this space of relaxation that it doesn't bother you anymore. And so many things can happen like um, behind the scenes under the radar where you just don't feel stressed about them anymore. So often I've seen like people get their bars run and then they either switch careers or switch partners. And it's like because you get a sense of a different possibility, a, a different way of life basically being available. And like there's a brilliant example of this, like I can say for myself that happened to me as well, because after my first bar session, 1 month later I was out of my workplace. Like I just wasn't going to be there anymore. And the like another person with whom I've created somewhat during this past year, she was working like for a long time in a store, and after getting a taste of that, like like for 20 years, and after getting a taste of that, she was like, no, I'm going to create something different for me. And she left that position, and she basically just, people would ask her like, what are you going to do now, like what's your plan? And she said, I don't know what's my plan, but I want to change this and I'm going to change this. So so it's kind of like an encouragement of you that you can actually change stuff, even though you don't know how you may go about them, but you can actually change them.
I think the other thing that I'd love to talk about is with certain things that maybe rile you up or maybe issues, like something that you talk to a therapist to or something that really scares you. What if there's a sort of source of mental component and what if there's a physical component to that? And my sense is that there those two things are often very separate in the modern set of tools that people have to deal with things. Like for your body, you do massages and all of this stuff. And then for your mind, like you talk through it, it's all mental. But there's no acknowledgement of, or maybe no real good way to address maybe the physical tension that occurs when um, you're really stressed about something, for example. And I really like bars for that. You're almost addressing the physical and the mental component of something at the same time. I think so many people know about um, how stress can affect your health. At this point, we've sort of come to understand that. And I think people have experienced that too, where maybe you have a ton of deadlines at work and you have a ton of deadlines at work and you like can feel the stress getting to you and you can feel how it sort of tires your body out. And it's not like a physical thing, but it's this mental weight on you. And the bars
Mhm.
really good at kind of handling both aspects of it, where by sort of undoing the core issue and sort of allowing that physical component to dissipate in a way that dissipates the mental component. And I'd almost equate that to like with people maybe leaving jobs or choosing something entirely different. I imagine so much for there's something I mentioned in the first episode of people looking at the world and seeing like everything's terrible, everything's awful, because that's what's being told to them. It's like it's a bunch of mud caked on your windshield, and like all you see is mud, and you're like, okay, the world is brown and ugly and disgusting and smelly because you have a ton of mud on your windshield. And for me, bars is this thing of like clearing the mud. And so, like, you clear a spot of mud, and maybe like pinpricks of light start to come through, and you're like, wait, what is this? Is that? And you just kind of know inside you're like, wait a second, like, what is this light that I'm seeing? And then maybe like getting the bars run once or twice, it like clears some of that mud. And then you go again and again, and it's like more and more of that mud is cleared off. And then you get to a certain point where you're like, oh, there's like a much bigger square that's opened up, and you're like, I can see that things might not be so bad or that something different is possible. And you're like, oh wow, like I can see like I can see some light that's coming through. Maybe
Yeah,
go in that direction, I could do something different. And that's what I love about bars. Big issues for me that I think I'm like, I can't deal with this. This is impossible. This is like a monolithic thing that will never get fixed. Like that mud on my windshield, like bars is one of my tools of choice, but my probably my favorite tool of choice to clear that out.
I love that. I love that. And the example of like the stress, modern stress that you gave before, right? You have all this stress and you just don't know what to do with that, or what it's coming from. Like some time ago, I heard this brilliant example, which was like, you know, thousands of years ago, people when they had adrenaline kick in, it would be when there was a bear. You were walking in the forest and there was a bear, and you were like, oh my god, there's a bear, there's danger. I can either attack the bear or I can run away from the bear. But now you have the same kind of stress, only there's no bear. You can't point to stuff, but like it's really stressing you out that you have to hand in a report by Monday.
Yeah.
And it's like, and
Project
it's,
deadline. It's on you. It's like,
yeah,
ugh.
like no matter where you go, you can't kind of like in a in a sense, you cannot run away. It's not like localized. It's everywhere you go because like we're so brilliant at creating stress for ourselves. Like you can worry even if you're the last person on the planet. Like everybody else just like is dead or left. You can still have a horrible time. Um, and you can have an amazing time as well. And you don't have to be the last person on the planet to have an amazing time. And yeah, so I really love the example that you give with the windshield, because it is kind of like there's not going to be, like I can say sometimes when I've had my bars run, I would get off the table, or even like more especially if it's in nature, I would kind of like stand up and I would look around, and I would see the world as if it was through different eyes. So I would see it kind of like different colors, not worrying, just having more ease with everything and just being generally happy. Like, you don't have to do anything right after. And just kind of, if we can have a way of bringing more ease into our lives, that's not necessarily drowning the pain or numbing the pain, like, why not at least try that? You
Yeah.
can try it once, you can hate it, and you can love it, and you can be somewhere in the middle. Like, with anything, I would say, like, just give it a go. And so this is also kind of like right now we're having like global lockdowns and stuff. People are not so much exposed to touch if you're not like, you know, if you don't have a big family who's living all together, or going somewhere that you can work, that you see other people, or like be around other bodies of other people, you basically have so much less touch these days. And our bodies generally really love to be touched. So it's not like we're these, islands floating in the middle of the ocean and like pushing everybody away. No one can touch us. Maybe we can be like that, but our bodies actually really like touch. And like, I don't want to kind of impose this on anyone. Just like, for yourself, like, do you like to be touched or do you not like to be touched? But kind of bars are in a sense a way to receive touch as well, that is really just calming. It's like a hug in a sense. So it's like having a really nice hug that lasts around 1 hour or hour and a half. So basically during the lockdowns where most people are not allowed to work this way, you basically cannot even learn the bars. There is like one online class per year, but like you need more than one person being staying at the same place that can run the bars and stuff like that. Um, but it's generally kind of like it's a thing that requires people to be at the same space to perform. So in a sense, some of the other tools that we've already talked about, that we will be talking about in the future, are more of a verbal nature, and this one is one of those that is basically all body.
Yeah.
So
You gotta be with someone.
what can people do right now to learn more about the bars? Where would you say they can go take a look?
So, first off, we will put some information in the show notes. So, different YouTube videos that talk about the bars and show different groups of people getting the bars. For example, Access Consciousness is a worldwide organization, and so people have gone to orphanages in South Africa, prisons in Brisbane, Australia. Walter Reed Medical Center in the US has volunteers who run bars on veterans, and all of this for free. And so people have gone to these different places and offered bars, and they've been able to sort of gift that to the kids of the people who are there. So that's some of what we will provide in the links. We're also going to provide the link to the Access Consciousness Bars Instagram page. And some of the posts on there are talking about bars and what it can do for you. And there's also testimonials from people who are not Timian and not me, who have tried this and in one way or another have found it really, really beneficial for them or their partner or their kid or someone else in their family.
Hmm. Yeah. So it's basically mm, there's we'll also include this, like, if you're curious about what bars are, what bars could do for you in a sense, There's a nice part in the Access Consciousness website where you can actually look through people for in your area for doing that, no matter where you are in the world, because Access is present in, I think now it's 176 countries, and like there are literally like hundreds of thousands of people all over the world doing this. So we will also link that, and you can check for people in your area, and like even if you don't meet with them necessarily right now to get a like a taste of this or a session, you could just contact them, and like there's so many groups as well, like the global one, the Access Bars 365. And if you just write, like in Facebook, you write Access Consciousness and add your city or your country at the end, you
There's
will be
usually a
able
Facebook
to,
group.
yeah, you'll be able to find it like almost like 100% certain. So um, I'm thinking she'll maybe just sharing a few of these pictures from the Instagram profile. So I'll just really quickly share my screen.
Let's do it.
Um,
I think the other thing I'll say while Timian brings that up is my hope is that when people try it, and I would say get your bars run 2 or 3 times. If it works, oh yeah. If it doesn't and you don't feel anything, that's perfectly fine. And my hope is that this becomes something that people do the way they would do like a massage or stretching. Because I think we've gotten to the place where people regularly stretch after workouts. People will go get massages if they have the disposable income once a month. And I think bars could make an even better version of relaxation that could become part of how you stay physically and mentally healthy. So, Jimmy
yeah,
brought the page up. We are going to go through some of the posts and some stories on this Instagram page of people who've used the bars.
yeah. So another great awareness was that I had to remove the overlay that we were using because it was basically blocking the screen. Now we know that. So it's basically this is the kind of like the official profile is at access.bars.official. Um, then there's also like the at access consciousness, and
Show
they
them
have
the
a
link tree.
yeah they have a link tree, and it's really amazing. Is this sharing? I think not,
The
right?
link tree is not sharing.
Okay, so I'll just leave it for right now. But like, if you click on this, you get basically access to like a lot of different videos and not just like links to actual videos of people talking about different stuff. So whatever you're interested in, because like access and bars are really like concerning so many different topics like bodies or relationships or sexuality, sex and stuff like that. So it's really a lot of different stuff to work with. So I really like here, like this is an example of what it looks like to have your bars run. So you can either be lying down on a massage table or you can have a chair like this, and the person who's sitting behind you is basically this is the first position that you do when you run someone's bars. And I really love this, how they're basically in nature, and it really adds a lot of to the energy of the experience. It's like having a massage on the beach. It's completely different than having it in someone's massage studio, even though that can be a really pleasant experience. As well as like when there are more than one people at the bars exchange, you really get like all of the effects just get ramped up. So this is an example, and this would be an example of people doing it indoors. So you're basically having people lie down on massage tables, and this is kind of like an overview of different bars points, what they are, which we won't go into. But like, there's a point for every area in your life that you could have more ease with. So like bodies or money or
Or
like
creativity.
creativity. And basically what it does, like each of those points, just when you touch it, you activate it and it starts dissipating all the shit that you've accumulated in that area of your life that is kind of like narrating how your life is playing out in that particular area. So there's a few very interesting graphics kind of like the did you know style. So
I know the
we're
Disney
good.
stories have a few testimonials, but we might have to like go through them one by one.
Yeah, yeah. So for example, this one. Did you know people report better sleep after having their bars run? And like there are examples of people who were having insomnia or couldn't sleep for a long time, and they had like a session of bars and it went away. And like let me just say, we don't want to present this as like a one quick fix that changes everything for you.
It fixes everything at one time in 4 short payments of 19.99. That's not how, fortunately.
Yeah, so it's basically can change a lot of stuff, but what is also worth mentioning is it changes the things that we are willing to let go of. So if we really like to be limited, to be limiting ourselves with saying things like I can't do this, like I'm not strong enough, I'm not creative enough to have a brilliant life, and we really want to hold on to that, we'll make sure to hold on to it. So you can like the bars or like generally these tools can never take away something from you that you don't want to let go of. That's one thing, and also another thing is they don't take anything away from you that it's actually a part of you. So you don't lose anything in a sense. You only lose what you're using to limit yourself. So
Necessarily going to
yeah,
lose your personality. It's more like dissipating the issues where you have a charge around something. So like, what's a good example? I'd say like let's say dogs come close to you and you just freak out. Like you immediately
yeah,
freak out whenever like an animal or a dog or a cat comes really close to you, and that brings up this like that's a great example of something that can be dissipated by running the bars, where you get your bars run a few times, and then maybe in the future a dog comes close to you and you don't immediately like go like or freak out. You're able to like relax a little bit. And what I also want to say, and the other reason I am, one, this episode is made, and two, I'm happy to encourage people to try this, is it's very much like a gentle touch on the head. No one's sticking needles in your head, so there's no
yeah,
head. You generally like, if you leave a bar session like hurt in some way, shape, or form, I think the bars practitioner did something wrong. It's not like a
no,
massage where someone's gonna like nail your muscles into the ground. It's very much like a light, gentle touch, and
yeah,
there's not that much. I say you don't have that much to lose in the sense of no one's taking acupuncture needles in your head. So that's the other thing
yeah.
I really like about it.
Yeah, yeah, and that was a brilliant example with the dog, and it's like another example would be parents who have teenagers at home or like little children who are constantly in demand of attention. Like you can run your child's bars or like your teenager's bars, and they will be more peaceful. They will not be so in your face all the time. You'll actually have a better relationship with them, and it's so like brilliant with children. You can also run it on children while they are, for example, like watching TV or playing a game on their phone, or while they're sleeping. So um, it's actually a great way to improve relationships at home as well.
It's getting rid of all those things that maybe the charge or the things that like rile someone up. So if there's a topic that like immediately causes arguments, or like a topic where like the words are said and everyone's like, oh, I'm ready to fight, like that, so much of that can dissipate. And then just imagine having like three angry people in a house going like rah 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 rah, compared to like three just kind of relaxed people who are just like, hey, everything's okay. Like if milk gets spilled or like something falls over and shatters, um, it's not like, holy crap, like, what the hell did you do? What's wrong with you? It's just like, oh, this happened. Okay, let's clean it up. And
Yeah,
it's a long term thing I like about bars is I'm generally just calmer overall. I notice this especially when like my friends lose something or something bad happens. Like if a plate falls and shatters, or like a glass falls and shatters, and I've had this happen like a couple times, because I've got my bars run enough and come to this place of relaxation, I don't immediately go crazy when that happens. I'm like, oh, the glass fell. Okay, let's clean it up. And that can be a really great gift when something bad or something like an emergency is happening, because it's not this spaced out, like, oh, I'd ignore this. It's very much like, okay, like this happened. Like, what can we do to make it better? Or like when people lose things, sometimes they'll get like frantic. They're like, where's my phone? Where's my phone? Oh my God, where'd it go? I lost it. I lost it forever. No. I've had aunts and uncles who do that too. And for me, using these tools for a while, I get to this place where I'm like, oh, okay, you like lost your thing. Okay, let's like look around for a bit. It'll show up eventually. And some unrelated, but I swear, just being in that relaxed space like lets me see and notice things that I might not otherwise see or notice. So usually, my relatives are freaking out when they lost their phone or their watch, and usually I'm the one who like 4 minutes later I'm like, oh, there it is. Okay, cool. And that's something that I'm really grateful for, that I can be like relaxed almost no matter what happens. And it gives me some like a pragmatic ability to deal with things instead of like freaking out.
Yeah, I love that. Like you just don't things are not so in your face all the time. Like nothing seems urgent. Even if you know you have to like give your report in on Monday, you're still like, okay, that's what I have to do, and I'm not choosing to screw myself over because of that. I'm going to have a good time today, and I'm also going to get it done. So you're not becoming in a sense this overpowered or overwhelmed victim that the thing is so much greater than, but you're actually just like, okay, I know what I have to do or like what transpired. And at the same time, I know that it's not, in the grand scheme of things, it's nothing um, so important, not so important, but like so significant and so detrimental. And I would really love to just share that one that I pulled on the screen before, which was, if I can find it again,
Can Timian find it? Can
can I find it? Yay, I can find it. And it's in the past 2 years alone, over 100,000 people have taken a bars class. So that means that there are 100,000 new practitioners in the world. And some people choose, like, why would somebody choose to take a bars class? It could be just for you. It could be just to experience something new, try it out, see if this is something you like. It could be for you to do with your family, like Shiel, you mentioned before, or your
Yeah,
children.
that's how I do it a lot. I do it with family and people who I would say family, but family and like swapping, because
Yeah,
it's another tool in the toolkit. Like, hey, this is another way, along with stretching and other things. Like, this is another way to um, like have a happy and healthy life. And
yeah.
deals with just this deals with sort of mental and physical topics in a way that like getting a foam roller does not do.
Yeah, yeah, as well as like if you choose to, if you really like it, you can also have this as a new source of income. Because after you've finished your bars class, you're a bars practitioner, which means that you can then like do bars on other people and you can also charge for that. You get a license, you get this nice certificate that we've seen up
I
here.
think you skipped one. There we go. Yeah.
Yeah, so
So
so and
fancy.
yeah, and you basically you become a part of the global kind of like roster of people who are registered to do bars. So if you're unsure whether some like a person is really a facilitator, you can look them up on this webpage. Like you can look for someone who's a practitioner as well. So it can actually be. It's not necessarily something that you just pay for. It can be also something that pays you. You know.
Yeah.
So I love this conversation. I think
Me
it's
too.
great.
I hope that more and more people get to see this episode. And for any current viewers, thank you so much. I hope this is something that like you give a shot and see what it works for you. And I think I said it before, but I'd love to see this sort of spread around the world, because one of my other favorite applications of the bars is just like the fact that it's almost like a plug that releases what's in your brain. And if you're in a career like computer science, or you're like a high flying lawyer, or you're doing some kind of job where you're required to think a lot, I think people in those fields, if you're watching, you probably have that experience of like mental fatigue where you come back from work and you need to watch TV for like 2 or 3 hours before you're able to actually get up and go do stuff. I love the bars for I love the bars for being able to dissipate that and get me to like a healthier functioning place much more quickly. And it's something that I've used like after a hard day at work for me, where sometimes I would come back and I would just be like, and I could like sit and watch TV, but I couldn't really do much else because my brain was like fried in a sense. It was just like overheated and it just needed like something to help unwind. And I think the bars could be an incredible tool for people who have that kind of life where they're thinking like crazy and you can feel your brain overheat and you need like something to help it unwind. TV's cool as well. I love my Netflix. And what if this is another possibility that could help you get to that place of like, okay, my brain feels better. I can like walk around and think and attend to my life. And I don't feel overwhelmed by the things around me.
Love it. Love it. Absolutely love it. And I think that's a great way to just kind of segue into the last part of our show. So, thank you everybody who's been watching this live, and thank you for watching this afterwards as well, or listening to it on our podcast. So, um, as mentioned before, you're so welcome to send us questions, and we're truly interested in all of your comments. So, like, if you really hated something, or if you really loved something, or if you're just curious about something, leave a comment. Let us know what that is, and we'll go through every comment and address it possibly in a future video, or just like pop an answer below. We really appreciate engaging with you. You can find us on YouTube and Facebook. We're right now trying out this new thing with StreamYard, so we're actually having two streams at the same time, whereas before there was just one, and like the video would go to Facebook and then it would be uploaded to YouTube. But now we can do both, so it will actually bring more possibilities in the future, where we will also be able to input like an introduction and like an outro, and just have a lot more fun with overlays as well. So you can find us on your favorite streaming platform as well. Sometimes it does take a few days to get uploaded to all of them. So like Spotify, Anchor, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Castbox, and others. It may not be available because like mostly we're going live on Sundays, and like things may need a few more days to get input to everything. But just like so that you know where to find us, you can visit. We have a web page that you can find on our Linktree, which is our Linktree is linktr.ee/sqrt of creation, and that's where you can find all the important info on where to reach us. Thank you so much for being with us. We're so happy to be able to share our experience with you. And how does it get any better than this?
How does it? And as a little teaser, last week we talked about this, the bars being our topic. Next week we're going to talk about, I'd say my second favorite access tool after the bars, light and heavy. So if you're someone who has been like, yeah, I believe gut feelings are a thing, but I have no freaking clue how to listen to that. This is like the key, like actually the key of like, how do you start to listen to that gut feeling and maybe follow it? And what if it's a lot stronger and potentially more beneficial to you than you initially imagined? So that's next week. Thank you again, everybody, for watching this week, and we will see you next Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.